Hello there, everybody. It's me, I am back. Sorry for being a bit late here, and today we're going to do a fast guide on Xinyan. So, sorry for the delay again in making this video. I was just kind of caught up at school and work, and I did have a couple issues with OBS where it was kind of being a stinker and didn't really feel like working. That's aside the point. I just do want to take a second to say thank you for watching this, even though it's very late. And yeah, let's do a quick little Xinyan guide. So, this should be like 5-10 minutes, fast guide if you haven't been here for to see what it is. Do a couple team comps, show off what the strengths are, my thoughts, the benefits, and should you pull them. So, Xinyan is going to be your Animo Catalyst character who scales heavily based off attack. For artifacts, I would recommend running Viridescent Inventor just because the set is absolutely busted. Other than that, a lot of people like Songs of Day Past, completely valid with this effect right here. Pretty much gives you a Bennett level buff pretty much directly, and benefits from overhealing. Then from there, some people do two-piece attack. That's because she loves doing attack. I have C0 on her. My weapon, I'm using Eye Perception as a stat stick mainly. There's definitely better options for sure. Especially your Sig. A 5-star with like attack is really good. I think Kagura's isn't bad arm. I would say it's not worth it though. Honestly, if you really need to and you're having energy issues in your team, it is totally worth running like Fav just to get the extra bits there. Even Sack isn't bad too just because she generates an absolute ton of particles. It is 5 on her E. I would recommend ER Sands. Here are the substats and here's the breakdown on her stats. As you see, I don't really care about crit all that much. EM is kind of decently worth it, you could argue, for the swirls, but I would argue against it, and I would just heavily focus on doing more attack. Breaking down her talents, first of all, she's got her normal attacks here. They kind of suck. She's got a plunging attack. They suck a little less. Then from there, you have your E. You can go and recast it 3 times. You do these dashes. You go pretty fast, and it helps a lot with transversal, as you saw there. If you don't do anything with it, and you don't do any extra inputs and you just use it for transversal, it's actually pretty decently quick, and as you see here, get you pretty far too. So it's really nice for just moving around. Most animal characters have something like this. There is better options actually currently in the game for moving, mainly I believe Wander and Yell on C2 is still faster, or you could do Wander Yell on Sayu. So just as an option though, for some teams you could very much splash that in, and that would potentially work out really well. And if you actually fully tasked her ability, it'll do a slam attack. That hits an enemy, generates 3 particles, does not matter the level of cast. So if you only hit the E button once and then do a slam, like so, that's 5 particles. Super fast in rotation. You do get a damage loss off the ability. Here's the scaling. It's whatever. Damage, I mean 506 is pretty good. It's just, you're not really going to be doing a lot of damage with that here. Now our burst is a little bit cooler. Pretty much it's like Jean's burst where it will go do an instant initial cast of healing scaling off attack and then do a continuous healing. The cool thing that she does though is this will enable high plunges on any character pretty consistently, and it'll give you like 8 charges or something like that. So it's actually pretty good. Damage it does is whatever. It doesn't do the best there, but it will continuously swirl for you, which is really nice, meaning that you'll always get your VV stacks going. And yeah, this is the main part about her kit. You're pretty much just charging up this most of the time. Her first passive talent is actually going to be a beautiful crit rate steroid, depending on the amount of enemies, scaling from 4 to 10, depending on number of enemies. It lasts for a good bit of time. The nice thing about this is 10% free crit rate is 10% free crit rate, meaning a character like Hu Tao, who would value it a lot, especially at something like C0, my Hu Tao would love getting that, and the consistency bump is great. Any character, it's really just 10 crit rate. There's nothing super special about it. It used to be better, I think like the betas or whatever from what I heard, but sadly we didn't get anything like that, and honestly I can't complain. The second one is really, really good. This pretty much makes it so it is the same way that Shenhe scales on her abilities, where this will get you a flat increase based off of Xinyan's damage. What this means is your charge attacks, or sorry, your plunging attacks, now the shockwave that hit one enemy and do a lot. 900 base attack is very, very good. Let me see if I can pull it up on, where are you? Jenna. Her base is not that high. Get those quotas there. Damage bonus is just based off her attack. It's like the same way it scales. And if you don't know, Shenhe is part of the reason that that's a really good element. That's a universal element increase, and it helps out with plunging attacks. So, what does this really mean, and what teams does this really benefit? Well, there's really about 4 big winners here. One is Zhao. Now, Zhao actually has a full team. This is his best in slot team right here with Zhao. I would say, but we're going to ignore that. Jin Yun, Furina, and then a C6 Farzan specifically. If you do not have this, it is probably going to be worth going and switching over to Bennett in this team. Mainly because that will give you a lot more stats that you're actually looking for. And Farzan just won't do enough for you without that. Also worth knowing, if you have a C4 Gene, this team will be a little less important, but it'll still be pretty good, mainly because the Animo Shred you get is a big deal with Gene. The other parties that are going to be really, really good is someone like Diluc here in a plunging attack build will be very, very good, because Diluc actually has the highest plunging attack scaler in the game. Meaning, Diluc actually now doesn't suck. If you want this to be a little bit more viable, all you need to do is switch out Modem, by the way, and put in Bennett instead. This team's just more goofy because it gives you a better damage per screenshot. The other one, and this is what I believe is the best team now in the game for solo DPS, is Hu Tao, Yelan, Furina. Jin Yun build, pretty much the damage you do with Jin Yun has been calculated to be higher than what you could do with C1 Hu Tao charge attack spamming. Meaning that this is now the most optimal build, and also makes so if you have Jin Yun, Hu Tao C1 is theoretically irrelevant, especially because the damage was actually calculated for single target, ignoring the fact that you have the AoE. It is a significant upgrade. The other one I think is pretty good is actually Raiden. Her charge attack multipliers are really, really good. Bunch of characters like this. Anything with Claymore is good. Technically a Navia buff, but that's not really who you're mainly using it for, to be real. A lot of characters who just can plunge attack and like the damage is good. Theoretically, you can make Deha pretty good with it, actually. My friend did a goofy build with that. A little bit copium, but it still does work competitively enough. And yeah, those are the main teams. I want to show off the Hu Tao team mainly because this is what I believe is the best. And we're going to test it against the Raiden Shogun bots, mainly because it's pretty much the most fair test. This is a really, really tanky enemy that is pretty strong, so it's a very valid test in my eyes. So anyways, this is an optimal rotation here, but it'll be good enough for purposes of this demo. And there we have it. I think that was within just a couple seconds there. And yeah. Some niche things to note is that if you're doing the plunging attack, you actually have a little bit of cooldown from when you do next plunging attack. Unless if you do another action to interrupt it. Kind of think about how you do Hu Tao charge attack cancels. So what you would do instead for most characters is if they're not doing it, is you can do charge attack, either a light attack or a dash, not a charge attack, plunging attack, light attack, or dash, and then that'll reset it, and then you can spam them faster. That's part of the reason the Hu Tao one's really fast. Other things to really, really note that I feel is important is that overall, she is not required at all. There's a lot of good characters that we have some hints about that are going to be really good in the future. If you do not have a character like this, it would be good for your account if you already have characters that's good. I would argue of it more as a toy than a necessity compared to someone like Nuvolette was, like how good Furina was, like the strength of Navia. I think for what she's doing as a character, it is very, very good. And I think overall for the game, it's actually extremely healthy, especially for someone like me who has Wailed and has a bunch of characters. It gives me a lot of different teams to mess around with. It gives me VV Swirl. And overall, is not bad for exploration at all, especially doing something like Jin Yun Yelan gives you great mobility. Things to note that are kind of more niche is that there's potentially an argument, also Talent Party is Q, E, and auto attacks. In that order, Q is by far the highest because that is what dictates your heal, and her self-damage isn't that high. The other thing that's really, really worth noting is there's actually a reason to have her Q level lower if you have a high enough attack at high enough level, if you're mainly playing Hu Tao, so you don't overheal. You'll notice by the end of it, my Hu Tao actually had a little bit too much health. That's also part of the reason I like doing that Furina E at the start, so I can intentionally lower it, so I will get most of the damage at the start. It's just like small rotation things like that you'd have to play around. if you lower that talent, you actually don't have to worry about that as much, and you can still counteract Furina's heal and still stack up a lot with her. So that there is very valuable. Really, should you pull her? Kind of depends. 7 days left on the banner. If you want her, and more less of a cop-out saying, if you can use her and you think it'd be good for your team, and you mean someone like Hu Tao, like Xiao especially, if you like someone like Deho or like the Luke, and you like to do funny, I don't want to say off-meta builds, because the builds are actually pretty decently competitive. Mainly this Hu Tao team killed the Ruined Serpent in Abyss 12-3, and yeah, I killed it in 20 seconds. It was really insane. So all those are good. Hope you all have a great rest of your day there. If you have any comments or if I missed anything, please feel free to mention it out in the comments. And I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. Stay good and try and stay out of all this crazy controversy that we're having right now as a community. See you guys.